Hey friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bring you my fall pattern paper mixing video. So I'm going to go through the pattern paper pads that I picked up for the fall season and show you what prints I would mix and match together on a card and why, and maybe what prints would not work so much together on a card in my opinion. So again, this is all just my opinion, but I asked you guys in my recent paper haul video if this would be something that you were interested in, and a lot of you said you were, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into things. So you may notice that I do have two fall pattern paper pads here that I just recently picked up, but I did want to just briefly show you this pad as well. So for those of you who might not be so interested in picking up a paper pad that is based on a season, if you're not somebody who uses pattern paper a ton, then you might look for an everyday paper pad that just has a color palette that will lean in that direction. So this one is the Echo Park Our Baby pattern paper pad. Absolutely has nothing to do with fall, but you can see that the color palette is really warm and cozy with the plaids and the little X's, which remind you of like stitching, cross stitching and all of that. And I have used this for a couple different cards this fall, and unfortunately I have already sent out or taken to work to sell all of my fall cards. So I don't have any card samples to show you in this video, but I will pop some photos in just to give you an idea of like different combos. So I made a couple different fall cards with this pattern paper pad so far, and I'll go ahead and pop those in. But just a brief look at this one. I'm not going to go through the whole thing super detailed, but just because I've already used a good bit of this pad, and so not all the patterns are included anymore, but you can see even this one, it has almost like a leaf pattern. It looks like little wheat. So that is another indication of something I would be looking for in an everyday pad that might also work for the fall season, but then can still be used for your baby cards or masculine cards or whatever kind of cards you want to do. So that is a really beautiful one. I believe I've used that one. Yeah, here's a scrap of it. So I've used that one on a card already. I always keep my scraps in the front there. And then we've got different kinds of prints here. Some little sunshines and some rainbows. Let me move these off to the side so you can see a little bit better. So obviously, when I'm looking through a pattern paper pad, I'm looking to kind of layer up to 3 patterns at a time. Sometimes I'll even do 4, but 3 is my typical, or even 2. So I'm looking for a main print, or what I call a base print, because I usually use it the largest on the base of my card, but really it's just the main print that is going to have a lot of color mixed in. I'm also looking for a smaller kind of tone-on-tone print, which this is kind of, or like these little stars, that's kind of a tone-on-tone print. And then sometimes for a third print, I'm looking for something that will be a bit smaller, but also have some detail to it. This pad is more of a 2 print, occasionally 3. So, okay, so this plaid here, that could be a base print for something. It's a bit of a larger scale and has a lot of color in it. And then you could mix in something that was a bit smaller, say this baby print, if you were making a baby card, and something that's tone on tone, like a really small print, like this little polka dot. So those 3 prints would work really well together. Again, this is for a baby card, not a fall card, but I'm just giving you an example. This one will be a little bit more tricky because it's meant for baby cards. I wouldn't mix these 2 prints together because the white stripes, it's too similar to the white stripes in the plaid, and I feel like that would clash a bit. But like this little X print, that's small enough that you could mix that, especially if you combined it with something else as well. Now here is also a leaf print that is even more tone on tone than this one. This one is a very, very pale, like peachy shade, like a, I don't know, like almost like a Caucasian skin tone, like a very fleshy tone. So that one kind of stands out a little bit more, where this one kind of blends in even further, but both of those I would use as layering prints. I think those are both really usable. Also in this pad you get some plain prints which work really well in mixes. Like I said, this one I'm not planning on going through too much because I've actually used quite a bit of the prints that I wanted to layer. There's not as many sheets left in this one. So that one was basically just to give you an idea of, you know, looking outside the realm of just fall or whatever season you're looking for. If you're somebody that doesn't use a lot of Christmas pads, you could also look for, you know, things that have a lot of red and green and maybe aqua blue or black and gray, you know what I mean? Alright, but these two are the pads that I really wanted to go through. I have this one here that is called the Farmstead Harvest from American Crafts, and then the Simple Stories Acorn Lane. We'll go through this one first because I got this one first. And right off the bat, so this one is only single-sided. I often don't buy single-sided pattern paper pads because they don't have as many mixable prints in them, in my opinion, usually. But this one definitely is something that could be layered with a lot of different stuff. Not so much this one because I don't see any of this kind of spiced orange shade in there. I don't see any of that, so I probably wouldn't mix it with this one, but gosh, isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so these leaves, that is something that you could definitely layer together on a card. So definitely these would work with the little bits of orange in there. We've got lots of little bright pops, and we've got some gold foiling on this pattern that would also work really well. You know what, I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit so hopefully you can see even more. Okay, so hopefully that's better. Here we've got a tone-on-tone red polka dot, or kind of like a corally red, salmon maybe. So this one would actually work pretty well with these mushrooms because we've got that bits of pink mixed in there, and we've also got the darker red in the mushroom cap and the flowers that bring out the darker polka dots. So that is something that I could definitely use on a card, you know, when we're talking about just 2 layers. This pad is probably going to be mostly 2 layers. We've got a beautiful foiled pattern paper. This one is also very detailed, and you could mix this one, say, with this one. This little floral print, we've got some of the gold in the leaves and then the brighter yellow that you get with the flashes of the foiling in the flowers. So those would work well together. Also, that would work well together because it's small and kind of muted. The same with the foiling. It's not that noticeable unless you tip it in the light, so it's not as much of a distraction with this busier print. Okay, so this one is fairly plain. That could be layered with things, maybe even this one. It's kind of muted though, so as I'm thinking about how I would use things on a card, I'm not only thinking about the patterns working together, but also like what color Copics I could use and what kind of images that brings to mind. So this is a very limited color palette. It doesn't really bring much to mind other than maybe like little pigs or, yeah, nothing else is really coming to me. So these probably wouldn't be my first choice in anything. Maybe red squirrels, although it's kind of pale and bright for that. Usually I color my squirrels a little bit more in brown tones, but you could maybe make that work. But this one is not my favorite anyway. I think it's kind of dull. That doesn't work together, but these work fairly well together. We've got this blue and kind of a stone gray, like a very cool pale gray. And then we've got this more bold print that could work. You would have to use it in one of these in small doses because this one is a larger, wider plaid, so it draws the eye, but then this print is also quite busy and draws the eye, so it is a bit of a competition between what will get the focus. So if I combined these two on a card, I would make sure to only use a small amount of one of them, and maybe even break it up with like some plain cardstock in between or something like that, just to give the eye a bit of rest. So we've got some little strips. These are always nice. You could use these completely on a background just as they are without mixing them with anything. Or you could just cut down a few of them and add that as like a strip across a card. So those could work for different things. Maybe even on that one you could use, you know, if you cut off like that and then use it across this pattern here, that could work. This one is very light and very tone on tone, so it can hold kind of strong behind all of the detail and not compete so much with it. Now we've got these tiny little mushrooms. Again, you'd want to mix this one with something that was more subtle, possibly the orange, although I'm not seeing a ton of orange in this, so maybe not. You could maybe use it with this one, although I'm not really loving that combination so much. I wonder if there's something a little bit brighter that would work better. So maybe we would go back to, like the polka dots. That could work well together. Or maybe this print here. I think that wouldn't be so bad together as well. So we've got this kind of quilt pattern. That one is so bold and eye-catching, especially with the bits of foiling. This might be a pattern that I would use all by itself on a card and just put a focal panel over top and not add another pattern to it. But if I did add another pattern, it would have to be something super subtle, something almost plain. And I don't know if I've even seen anything so far in this pad that would really work. Not really. Everything kind of distracts from it because it's just got so much going on with the repetition of the pattern being so precise and graphic, and then the foiling as it catches the light and all of the color mixed in with the foiling. I think it pretty much stands out on its own, and I would probably just use it all by itself. I usually don't use these, so again, with the single-sided paper, these are just wasted to me. So that's another reason why I don't really enjoy the single-sided paper. And then the pad just repeats. So again, I didn't get as much bang for my buck out of this pad as I would with a double-sided pattern paper pad that gives me more prints to work with. So I do like this one, and I plan to use it soon with some cards, but it's not going to be my favorite. I can tell that already. So let's move on to the Simple Stories Acorn Lane. Simple Stories is great for pattern paper mixing, although I have noticed in this one that a lot of the prints are bolder. So this one could be a trickier one than usual to mix and match, but let's dive in and see what we can do. So again, I said this in my haul, but I never use these, so I would use the back, which is the great thing about having double-sided paper. I didn't pay for a sheet of paper that I'm never going to use, because I will use the back side. So right off the bat, these match really nicely together, but this one is a beautiful floral print, and then this one to me is so masculine. So they do work well together, and I probably wouldn't hesitate to use them on a card together. But I also love this idea of using this as something for a masculine card. So let's keep an eye out if there's another print in there that's not floral that might work as well for this. The great thing about these is that they're extra long because they're 6x8. So I can definitely, you know, get at least 2 cards worth out of this single sheet of paper, you know, because I don't use the full thing always. Sometimes I just use a strip of it. So maybe I'll use the whole thing as a, 4¼ by 5½ with a strip of this across, but then I have a good bit left that I can cut up and use possibly even on 2 more cards in different strips, just depending on how I lay out my cards. So we've got this really pretty little heart print. This could work well as like a triple layering one, so maybe you would put this at the base, and then maybe a belly band across with this, and then maybe like a flag down the center going this way because we want the hearts to be in the right direction so they read as hearts. But you could have a strip going down the card like this. And again, I will pop some cards on the screen if I have examples of those ideas whenever I can. But unfortunately, I just don't have any here to show you because I just wasn't thinking when I took them to work and sent a whole bunch out about the fact that I needed them for this video. But anyway, I wanted to get them sent out on time so that they would get to people, during the fall season or whatever, so it's all good. This moth print I think is stunning. You might be able to use these two together. Even though this one is nice and bold, the print is quite a bit smaller than this one, so I would use these together with caution. So maybe a large panel of the moths and then a very thin strip of the hearts, or vice versa, the whole background being the hearts and a thin strip of the moths could be nice on a card. Or you could take these two and mix them with something that is more tone on tone. So, okay, so this print here is more like what I'm talking about with the tone on tone. It's a very, very small check print, and it's using the same color palette, just different values of it, a light and a dark version. So that would be something that could work well, possibly even these three together, although, yeah, you could use these three together. It depends, like I said again, these two are both eye-catching, so I'd be very careful about using one of these in a small amount, but this one together, that could work. So, okay, we've got this really pretty little leaf print. This one, I think, could work well with that plaid. That might be something to use. And even though it's a masculine card, there's not really too many flowers on here. There's a couple little ones, but it's more leaves. So I think that wouldn't be bad. That might be something that you could use on a masculine card together. Then we've got these little acorns, which I love. I think it might be too much, I don't know, with the hearts. You could maybe use those again together, but like I said, because they're both eye-catching prints, they both grab your eye, they both have a lot of detail going on, and they're both on the smaller side, even though this one is definitely larger than this one. You'd have to be cautious with how much you use of one or the other. Like I said, that was going to be the trick with this one, just because there are so many bolder prints in this particular pattern paper pad. So the polka dots would work absolutely, though. The polka dots and the acorns, I think that's a match made in heaven. And that's the other thing I love about double-sided paper, is often the pattern right on the opposite side or right next to it is the perfect match for it. You don't have to look that hard a lot of times in a double-sided pattern paper pad. So again, here, this print and this print, all I would have to do is cut out a piece, cut it into a strip and flip over the other side, and I've already got a perfect match for it. But then also right next to it, we've got a perfect match for the next print, which is that really pretty floral. This one could also go well. I wouldn't mix it with the hearts necessarily, but this print over here, that could work well together. I think that would be really nice. And again, this one also works with the plaid from the beginning. So there really is a lot of good mixing potential in this pattern paper pad, more than I was expecting from the front. Then we've got a little pink with an orange polka dot. That could work together with the print on the other side. I wouldn't mix those two. The pinks are completely different. This one is more of like a fleshy pink, and this one is more of a brighter pink. Okay, but it could work really well with this floral right there, because we've got the little pink with the orange little lines on the center, so that's a good one. This one I probably would only use the side from, and that could maybe go well with the moths. But now we've got like all of these gorgeous patterns that I love, but what are we going to put them with? So that actually isn't bad, even though there's no pink in this pattern paper. So if I were to use these two together, I would definitely make sure that whatever I'm coloring incorporates some pink into the color palette to tie those together. Could work with the polka dots, but it's not my favorite. Maybe with the hearts, because the birds are spaced far enough apart that you do see a lot of the blue with your eye. Again, they might work with the plaid. That's not bad. Or with this small gingham print. And the small gingham print is probably what I would also put with the foxes. I think that goes really nicely. Anything else? I don't know that I would use the brown. There's not really any brown in this. It has the black instead with the fox's legs. So yeah, that's probably what I'd use for that one. And that is way too much of a distraction to me. That just doesn't work at all. That's like a clash for my eye, for me personally. I'm seeing if there's anything I would mix those leaves with. Okay, so again, the gingham. So the gingham one that's always a pattern that I am excited to see in pattern paper pads, because they're really easy to mix with other things, especially if it's on the small scale like that. So that's probably it for that one. Then we've got this interesting, and it looks like a man's dress shirt print, and that would probably go really well with the plaid. This is the same plaid from the beginning, it's just a larger scale there, so that could work really nicely together. And then this one actually goes well with this plaid here. Those would be a really good match. And this would also make another great masculine card, because there's nothing feminine in there. There's no florals. It's just leaves and plaid. So that works really well together, these two. And this one could also work with the darker rust-colored plaid. And then we've got this little blue floral here. That one again probably works best with the gingham right there. Those are really nice. And then we've got this little leaf stripe. Again, this is more of a masculine print, but that one might also do nicely with that plaid. Where is that plaid? Those could work. I don't know. It's a bit of a distraction with the lines on the lines in the plaid, so maybe not so much. It does go with the gingham again. That's pretty much it for me. Maybe with the brown polka dots. That could work too. Those two. And then this pad repeats. So again, there's quite a bit of mixing to be able to do with this pad, but a lot of them do require the same prints to be used with them. So yeah, I wish there was like one or two more kind of tone on tone prints in this pad, just to kind of give me more options of mixing ability, but I still really, really love this one, and this is the one I'm most excited about for fall, so definitely plan to use this one soon in some cards, so stay tuned for that. So that was my little pattern paper overview and kind of a little mini tutorial on what kind of prints I would mix and match. So I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, I also plan to do a holiday version. I have way more holiday pattern paper pads, so I don't know if I'll be able to do them all in one video or just kind of pick and choose a couple, because I think I've got 6 or 7, so it would be time consuming to go through them, but let me know what you guys think about it, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I hope you found some value in this, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye-bye!